Secret of the Sword. Hardly anyone knows that Prince Adam of Eternia can use the Sword of Power to become He-Man, Master of the Universe. Not even his mother and father. But there is another sword in existence, the Sword of Protection, which also has magic powers. This book is the story of how the sorceress sent Adam to find the owner of the Sword of Protection. He set off through a time gate and found himself in the land of Etheria, ruled by the evil Hordak and his minions, the Horde. The owner, surprisingly, turned out to be Adora, Adam's twin sister, stolen as a baby from the king and queen of Eternia. And one last enormous surprise. The Sword of Protection turned Adora into Princess She-Ra, with all sorts of strange powers. But only He-Man and the sorceress know of Adora's dual identity. In Castle Grayskull, deep in the heart of Eternia, the sorceress tossed in a troubled sleep, dreaming of the past. Of Hordak, leader of the evil horde that menaced the land of Eternia. In her dream, she saw him holding a baby girl in his arms.
You may have defeated us,
He was saying.
but you will never see this child again.
Adora!
Cried the sorceress, and woke up, weeping. Through her tears, she saw a sword glowing in the air, beckoning her. She followed it through the corridors until it stopped at a closed door. Then, suddenly, the door burst open, revealing a mysterious time gate glimmering at the doorway. The sword fell to the floor,
Can it be the Sword of Protection?
said the sorceress, picking it up.
After so long.
Prince Adam was in the kitchens of the royal palace of Eternia. He was baking spice bread, watched by his pet tiger, Cringer. Suddenly, he heard the sorceress calling him by telepathy. Seconds later, he and Cringer stood beside her in front of the time gate.
If this is a gate, where does it go to?
Asked Adam,
That I cannot say.
said the sorceress.
This door has never opened before.
You want me to pass through this gate and find someone on the other side, and you can't tell me who this person is?
The sorceress handed him the Sword of Protection.
This sword will lead you to the one you seek.
She said,
Why,
said Adam.
except for the jewel in it, this sword looks exactly like mine.
And like yours, it is intended for someone of a special destiny.
Said the sorceress. Adam put it on his back, beside his own Sword of Power, and he went forward with Cringer through the time gate. Now Adam and Cringer found themselves in the beautiful world of Etheria, ruled by the evil Horde.
There's an inn.
Said Adam, looking about him.
We might get food there.
Inside, a minstrel was playing his harp, and Bo, the rebel, sat in a corner, cowl on his shoulder.
Do you think he's a spy for the Horde, Cowl?
Asked Bo.
Unlikely.
Said the cowl, looking at Adam.
Horsemen don't often smile.
The door slammed, and 3 troopers stalked in. Cringer dived under a table, and Bo's face grew grim.
Horseman.
He growled. No one spoke as the hordemen sat down at a table. Then the minstrel began to play again.
I don't like that, son.
Said one of the hordemen, and fired at the harp. Adam was annoyed. He picked up the hordeman and threw him into a barrel. Then Bo decided to help with the other 2. As the fight raged from one side of the inn to the other, Cowl joined Cringer under the table. When Bo and Adam had disposed of the 3 hordemen, one to a barrel, they shook hands. Cowl and Cringer crept out sheepishly.
The Horde will send a force squad after us now.
Said Cowl. Bo nodded.
You better come with us to Whispering Woods, Adam, and help with our great rebellion.
In the main hall of Doom Tower, in the Fright Zone, a messenger was speaking.
Mighty Hordak, I bring you bad news from the village of Thamor in Bright Moon. 3 of our troopers were defeated by 2 rebels.
Shadow Weaver glided up with more bad news.
A stranger from another world has come to Etheria, bringing with him the seeds of great trouble for the Horde. He is somewhere in the kingdom of Bright Moon, but my spells can no longer find him.
Bright Moon?
Hissed Catra, standing near.
Could he have beaten our troopers, Hordak?
You may be right, Catra.
Said Hordak. He shouted to a hordeman,
Send Force Captain Adora to me at once.
Then he spoke to the villains around him.
We will teach this stranger it's not nice to cause trouble for the evil Horde.
Meanwhile, Bo had taken Adam into Whispering Woods to meet Glimmer, leader of the rebels. She was the daughter of Queen Angela, who had once ruled Bright Moon. On the way to the camp, Adam also met Spragg, one of the Twiggets who lived in the woods. Just as Bo was telling Glimmer that he and Adam had taught 3 hordemen a lesson in the village of Thamor, Madame Raz flew in with Broom. She had news. A Horde force captain and 4 villains had arrested everyone in the village of Thamor because of the fight at the inn.
If the culprits don't give themselves up, Hordak says he will send the whole village to the mines as slaves.
He'd do it too, the fiend.
Said Glimmer.
Surely we can save the village without giving ourselves up.
Said Adam.
I've a friend who might help.
He added quietly. Glimmer looked at Spragg and the peasant rebels nearby, and they nodded.
All right then, let's save Thamor!
She cried, and everyone cheered.
Hooray!
At that very moment, the villagers were being loaded into the Horde slave transporter. Catra and the 3 other Horde villains, standing by their Horde flyers, were grumbling.
If Force Captain Adora wasn't Hordak's favorite, she wouldn't be in charge, and we wouldn't have to do as she says,
said Leech. Mantenna was very unhappy.
That's right.
He said.
We could have some fun destroying the village.
Then there was a shout.
For Bright Moon, attack!
It was Glimmer leading the little band of rebels to the rescue. The hordemen were taken by surprise, but they soon recovered. The rebels were few, and the villains soon began to gain the upper hand in the battle. When Adam saw this happening, he decided that it was time for He-Man to help.
By the power of Grayskull!
He called and raised the Sword of Power. Seconds later, he was He-Man, and his cowardly cat had become Battle Cat. The fight began all over again. He-Man and Battle Cat fought hard, and to start with, they were winning. Then Mantenna's beam hit He-Man, and he fell. The beam was destroying his sense of balance. He managed to get to his feet, but then he found that Force Captain Adora was firing at him. He flung his sword at her, smashing her blaster, and she turned to run. When he caught up with her, she had her back to the wall, her sword out. He-Man pulled out the Sword of Protection and broke Adora's weapon with one swift move. As he did so, he saw to his amazement that the Sword of Protection was glowing. He lowered it, puzzled.
You must be the one I came to find,
he said.
Is that so?
Said Adora, smiling cruelly as she watched a hordeman taking aim at He-Man. He fired, and as He-Man fell to the ground, Adora said,
You're mine now, stranger. You and this curious sword.
Back at the rebel camp, Madame Raz and 3 of the Twiggets were holding hands in a circle round a little tree. Madame Raz was casting a spell, and Glimmer and Bo were watching anxiously, along with Battle Cat.
I hope Madame's spell can find He-Man,
whispered Glimmer to Bo. Suddenly a picture formed at the top of the little tree,
Dearie me,
said Madame Raz.
it's Beast Island.
I've heard rumors that the Horde have a prison there.
Said Bo.
If that's where He-Man is,
said Battle Cat.
let's go.
Madame Raz started on another spell, but it went wrong. At last, she managed to magic a flying ship just above the trees. Glimmer transported herself aboard and helped the others up, and they set off for Beast Island. For once, Madame Raz hadn't got it wrong at all. He-Man was on Beast Island, imprisoned on a huge slab of stone by electro-bonds. Force Captain Adora was standing beside him, the sword of protection in her hand.
I'm Force Captain Adora.
She said, swishing the blade through the air.
This sword feels as if it were made just for me.
I'm He-Man,
said her prisoner.
I thought the sword was for you when it glowed, but I was to give that sword to someone who served good, and you serve evil.
You're the one who serves evil, rebel. I serve the Horde, the rightful rulers of Etheria.
You must have seen how the Horde treats people,
said He-Man.
I've spent most of my life training in the Fright Zone,
said Adora.
I don't know much about the rest of Etheria.
You should go and find out. Or are you afraid to?
Taunted He-Man.
I'm afraid of nothing,
said Adora.
But I'll think about it.
He put the sword back in its sheath and walked thoughtfully away.